A few days ago, Tim Heemskerk, Dutch performance director of the Rabobank team, thrilled millions of cycling fans by announcing in an interview with esteemed publication Cycling Weekly that Jonas Vingegaard, our beloved Danish anchovy, is making a miraculous recovery from his serious crash in the Basque country. Tim says that he will most likely be fit enough to win his third consecutive Tour de France. Until now, Vingegaard was training in his native Denmark, a country which has many advantages for a cyclist, such as bike paths or childhood friends who are clients of Luigi Cecchini, who could send him a postcard from the Giro d'Italia, or clients of Michele Ferrari, who can teach him how to get the right TUE for certain summer allergies, and then prestigious Tour de France champion-turned-directors who are friends of this channel. Or the teenagers who, at just 15 years of age, suffered damnable food contaminations and tested positive for doping. But even then, a country as cycle-loving as Denmark has some disadvantages, according to Heemskerk. According to this close friend of the anchovy, the Jutland Peninsula is not the right place to prepare for the Tour de France because there are hardly any mountains, and also it's a country far, far away from the main gas stations of world cycling, that is Spain and Italy. Many wondered where Jonas would go 2 weeks after getting back on his bike. Unfortunately, we now know. Thanks to some tender-aged Danish fans, they're always Danish, you know, we have been able to discover Jonas Vingegaard's secret plan to prepare for his assault on the yellow jersey. For the anchovy has gone to Mallorca, the island owned by the former King of Spain's friend, doping doctors and a tennis player with lifetime TUEs and suspected covert doping sanctions, Mowgli Nadal. This is the land where Lance and Jan and George and the British alcoholic and the monkey of man swindled German and English millionaires by charging them €30,000 for the privilege of taking a ride with their doped-up idols. It's the ideal place for the reigning Tour de France champion to gradually recover from his serious injuries. Thanks to his continuous ascents of the Col de Soyer, a first-class pass on the Balearic Island, the lungs damaged by the serious pneumothorax suffered in Olieta are breathing again and enjoying a rhythm typical of a top-level athlete like the anchovy, whose gills are gradually regaining their impressive maximum oxygen consumption of 97, yes. In addition, Jonas has surprised us all with a new tattoo, very similar to the one Ted Mosby got on How I Met Your Mother during a drunken night, for it is a sweet, sweet butterfly that symbolizes his beautiful fish head breaking the cocoon that had kept him stock still for 2 weeks in the Basque country, preventing him from flying in the Tour de France. But you see, in order to do that, he has a plan. He will copy the preparation of his greatest rival, and we don't just mean his diet by drinking coffees and eating ice cream at the Cantopa restaurant, where he's already known as super fit by the joking bar owners. Poggi once again put on a stratospheric show at the Giro d'Italia on the Livigno stage, the Transalpine country's favourite place for the Slovenian monster and for the son of Dr. Luigi Cecchini. Poggi made probably the most brutal ascent of his sporting career to Foscagno, taking out in 15 kilometres of ascent more than 3 minutes over his top rivals and cutting 3 minutes out of Tramadolito Quintana, who was doing his best performance in 2 years. Poggi beat the record for this climb, set in 2005 by his near namesake, the doper Tadej Pogacar, beating him by more than 4.5 minutes. He climbed at a power of 6.1 watts per kilo for over 35 minutes, and all this at over 2,000 meters altitude, making him the third cyclist in history after the anchovy and coconut oil Lopez to move practically the same watts even over the other side of the 1,500-meter altitude barrier. But perhaps even more terrifying was the power data from his climb in pursuit of Tramadolito, with 6.88 watts per kilo for more than 13 minutes, and all this after a previous expenditure of 5,000 kilojoules, and a legendary climb like the Mortarolo, which he did whistling merry tunes on his bike. We're talking about a guy who climbed for those 13 minutes with between 450 and 500 watts average power. 100 watts more than Tramadolito and 80 watts more than Romain Bardet, the only rider in the group who dared to try to chase the Slovenian alien. Data that translates to about 3 or 4 kilometers per hour faster than his best rivals. It's hilarious, isn't it? After 6 hours of effort, he arrived so calmly at the finish line, while the others arrived up to an hour later, totally blown out. It's a dominance similar to that which we saw with Lance Armstrong in his epocha, and one which can only be explained in one way. But with this epic preparation, well, Jonas is already copying it in order to be able to beat this monster at this year's Tour de France. You see, while the cyclist with algae sprouting from his helmet rested in the beautiful Mallorcan coves, his Hungarian teammate at Rabobank stuck to Poggi like a limpet during some very hard seconds to try to get exact data from his various watt meters, and then he could transfer it to his leader via the wonders of WhatsApp. Poggi's ascent of Foscagno was not only top-level training for the Tour, it was also the Slovenian's first high-altitude exhibition after his failures in recent years in the French round. But our friends at Rabobank already knew that the Saunier Duval team was going to fly. Because while Poggi is laughing at the rest of his rivals in the ideal place to recharge his batteries during the rest day, Vingegaard's teammates are enjoying stealth preparation at the high-performance center of Sierra Nevada in Granada, Spain. It's just an hour and a half's flight from our beloved Anchovy's Mallorcan idyll. Now, what happens in this place where doped athletes such as the Spaniard Mo Katir, or then athletes suspected of doping practices such as the Norwegian brothers abused by their father, or the legendary Spanish cyclist doped in Operation Puerto, P.T. Valverde, they've already prepared there, among others. So what does go on there? Well, this centre, you see, first of all, is the place where Poggi prepared to win Liège and the Giro d'Italia 2024, spending 3 weeks there. And of course, the revolving doors of the centre have welcomed many athletes from the stables of both Dracula Gianetti and Richard Plugger in the last year. So what has changed so much in the last 365 days? Well, the Spanish government, honouring its well-deserved award as the world's doping paradise, wanted to provide this high-performance centre with the best hypoxic chambers on the planet, surpassing those of an enraged Kolobnev who must be climbing the walls to see that they are now copying his brilliant idea. And to do this, the various councillors and deputies of Granada have spent more than 700,000 euros of its citizens' money to literally manufacture Spanish medals for the Olympic Games in Paris. Unfortunately, Mr. Katir won't be hanging any of those around his neck of swollen veins. But these new hypoxic chambers are based on a new technology created by the University of Granada. And there, the walking athlete Maria Perez managed to be double world champion in just 4 days in her events, the 20 and 35-kilometer walk, and this despite suffering micro-ruptures in the middle of the competition. These hypoxic chambers, already located at an altitude of more than 2,300 meters, make it possible to simulate up to 6,000 meters of altitude if necessary. Although in the case of cyclists, simulating close to 3,000 meters will be more than enough. That's the altitude they'll have to overcome on the Col de la Bonnette in July. In other words, natural training is combined with artificial training. And not only that, since the Deputation of Granada has promised to further improve the medical equipment in order to be at the forefront of world technology. This is how money is invested in Spain, allowing us to enjoy the spectacle from another planet from athletes such as Poggi or Superfit or hundreds of athletes in the upcoming Olympic Games. And then, of course, when the dopers come to light, as with Mr. Katir, the Spaniards will have to keep quiet. Zero complaints. Just keep investing in professional sports as bread circuses and propaganda. And then they can continue stealing and impoverishing society. What a deal, eh?